What is good, guys? Now today I want to talk about what I think most TV shows and I think most animes fail to do, and that is to write a good female lead. And I want to talk about how Apothcary's Diaries does it so well. So guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and let's get into it. So now we have to talk about who is the main lead of the show. Now the main lead of the show is called Mao Mao, and Mao Mao, from the first episode we really get to learn a lot about her. Now in the first scene we get to see she lives with her dad, and we get to see that she makes day-to-day deliveries for him, whether that's delivering medicine or basically other stuff for his customers, because her dad is basically a pharmacist, right? But it was more called an apothecary back then, but it's basically a pharmacist, right? He helps people that are sick and ill and delivers medicines and herbs to them. Back then they would mostly use like plants, you know, old stuff like that, right? But we get to see that she makes deliveries for her dad. Now we get to learn a lot about her personality within this episode, because she gets kidnapped and she gets sold to the rear palace. Now while most people would be freaking out, you know, trying to get back home, she just doesn't really care. She just has a carefree attitude towards everything, which is kind of refreshing, you know, when you see characters have a carefree attitude, because I think we can learn a lot from characters that have those type of attitudes. Now obviously if you get kidnapped you should definitely try to escape. I don't think you should be that carefree, but there's definitely something we can learn from having a carefree attitude like hers. But that's at least the attitude she presents on the surface. But what you realize is underneath that surface there's really more to her than this, but it is a good starter and a good introduction to her character. Now we get to learn a little bit more about her personality and what she's interested in, because two of the concubines, right, which if you don't know what concubines are, they're basically women like back in the day where they'd basically just be there to serve the emperor and to give the emperor kids, right? So that's basically what concubines are, for anyone that's wondering what they are. Now two concubines are sick, right? One of them is pregnant and sick and the other one's child is sick, right? And Mao Mao takes an interest in this, so we get to learn a little bit more of her personality. Now we already know she works with medicines and works with stuff like that, but we get to see she has a genuine interest in actually helping people, which is a common theme throughout this anime, is her wanting to help people. Now she quickly deducts what it could be that is affecting them, showing her knowledge in medicines and trying to help people. And you can see she's way more smarter than anyone in the palace, because no one else can figure out what's going on, but she's able to analyze the symptoms and is able to come up with a cure pretty quickly, or is able to at least come up with an assumption about what it might be. So if we just stop the video right here, right, we've already learned so much about her just in the first couple minutes of the episode. We learned that she works with her dad, right? She likes medicine, she has a pretty laid back personality, but also underneath that personality she has a passion for medicine, and she also likes helping people as well. So we learned all that just in the first, this is like the first 10 minutes of the episode. So this is why I say episode 1 does such a good job at introducing her character. But let's get into the rest of the video. Now just to piggyback off my last point about her liking to help people, she's able to manage to at least save one of the women and save one of the women's children. Now the other woman, unfortunately, she loses a kid, right, and the kid dies because she doesn't want to listen to the advice that's given to her. But one of the women listens, right, and a child is able to be saved. Now how does she save the child? She basically writes on a note saying that the powder is poisonous and you should stop using it, and that's what's able to save this woman's child. Now if you don't know what the white powder is, if you've basically seen any old kind of Chinese or Japanese shows, right, or pictures, you'll see them wearing white powder. Now I don't know exactly the name of this white powder, but basically they used to wear the white powder just to whiten up their face, right, because back then that was the beauty standards back then. It still kind of is now, but especially back in like old Japan and old China, the beauty standard was to basically be pale, so that's why they used to wear that powder on the face. And just like in the anime, a lot of women in real life would get sick from this powder as well, so it's a good representation of what women were doing back then also. Now Master Jinji, one of the other characters in the show, is able to deduct that it was her that sent the warning letter, because not a lot of working girls could even read or write back then. So it goes to show again how smart she is, and it also goes to show that she probably taught herself how to read and write. And it also speaks to how times were different back then also. Overall as an anime, I know we're just focusing on the main character here, but overall as an anime, it does a good job at showing what times were like back then, basically how a lot of women and a lot of men used to live back then as well. Now after he finds out it's her, he asks her to meet the woman who he saved. Her name is Lady Gyuku. Now yes, we're using names now. Her name is actually Lady Gyuku, and she meets Lady Gyuku, and Lady Gyuku thanks her. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, it's something like Gyuku or Gyoko or something like that, but she meets her and thanks her for saving her child. But humbly she doesn't really accept the praise. She says, oh, it was nothing, I don't deserve the praise from you. but also tries to insist that it still wasn't her, showing again, while she does like to help people, she also doesn't like trouble at the same time. So you can kind of see she has a dual personality, and you can kind of see why, because if you look at politics today, no one really wants to be involved in politics too much if you don't have to. Now obviously you can talk about it, but you see politics can make people do crazy stuff, right? So again, I can see why she doesn't want to be involved in it, because there are a lot of politics going on in the palace with the kids, because again, like I said, with concubines, they're there to make kids for the emperor, and obviously back then a lot of males are more favored than females, so that's one of the reasons why she doesn't want to be involved in northern politics, because you know, if you have a male, you're more likely to be favored with the emperor than if you had a female. Now obviously we're not saying it's right on this channel, but that's how times were back then. Now Master Gingy has to outright tell her how he figured it out, and after telling her how he figured her out, she has to admit that yes, it was me that wrote that note. Now Lady Gyuku asks her basically, why did you do it and how did you know that the powder was poisonous? Now she goes on to explain that she used to work at this brothel, and a lot of women that worked at the brothel would use this white powder. Now again, if you don't know what a brothel is, look it up, right? You can look it up. I'm not explaining it in this video, but basically a lot of, well, okay, I will explain it a little bit. Let's just say they're working girls, right? So a lot of these working girls would put the white powder on their face and would get sick from it and would eventually pass away, unfortunately. Now she uses a nice quote that I want to read out here. They traded the fullnesses of their lives for a fleeting moment of beauty. And that's how she describes it. And that quote right there, wow, she's even philosophical, guys. That quote is a really good quote, but it really perfectly describes how the powder would take away a lot of these women's lives, because they would wear the powder to look beautiful, but then eventually get ill and fall sick. And I think it took years and years and years for people to figure out that this powder was bad and people shouldn't be using it. And even when people knew it was bad, women would still use it anyway, right? Now obviously I have little knowledge on this powder, but I'm just giving you the little bit of knowledge I know about it, right? And what you get from the show. And again, what I love about the show is it gives you so much information about her in a small piece of time, because what we've learned about her now is she has a very troubled backstory, but she also cares about people, because you can see when she's explaining the story, right? If you watch the anime, but I'll probably put the video on the screen as I'm explaining this, you can see she looks very sad while she's explaining what happened to these women. So you can see she has a big care for people underneath that laid-back personality that she has. Now the episode ends with her becoming a lady-in-waiting, which a lady-in-waiting is basically someone who serves the concubine, right? It's a higher ranking than what she was. She'll live in a nice place, she lives in a nice bed, and she basically just tests medicines and tests poisons, tests food, stuff like that, right? So that's why she hires her. Just from this episode alone, she learns that she lives with her dad, right? She has a laid-back personality, but also cares about people underneath that personality, and also has a passion for medicine. Now while we could get into more, and I will get into more in later episodes, right, I just feel like from this first episode we get to learn so much about Mao Mao, and she's already an engaging lead character. And also if you talk about her working in the brothel, we see she has a very troubled past. So again, you're interested in who she is as a character. You probably already like her as a character as well, and you want to know more about her backstory. So I feel like this first episode alone just goes to showcase how most female-led shows just fail to write good female leads, because most female lead shows, it's more about, oh, I don't know, their sexuality, or it's about some guy, whereas you see with this episode, it has nothing to do with a guy. It has all the things to do with her, and just basically her passion for stuff, and also her passion for medicine. We can all appreciate that, because everyone has a passion for something, right? And seeing her just be fully passionate with everything that she does is also a good thing to see, because like me, I'm passionate with YouTube, she's passionate with medicine, you might be passionate with something, and seeing someone have that kind of childlike passion, it kind of encourages us to do our passions as well, or at least makes us happy seeing her be happy with doing medicine. You see that throughout the next couple of episodes, where she's just really passionate about doing medicine, trying poisons, and also trying to help people at the same time, while also being laid back. And again, I think we can learn a lot from a character, and I think the person who wrote this character, the author, did a very good job in the first episode of hooking you in and getting you to already fall in love with this character. And it's a reason why Apothcary's Diaries is so popular now. But guys, that's all I've got time for. Sorry, I know the video is a bit short, but I just wanted to get into the first episode. If you guys want me to get into other episodes where I get more into it, let me know. I just wanted to test the waters. I've already done a video on Apothcary's Diaries, right? But I didn't like it. It was a bit of a lazy video, I will admit. I think this one's more well thought out, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. And also, if you haven't watched it, right, maybe this is a good introduction to the first episode for you guys. But I really think the first episode does a good job at showing off how good of a character she is and how good the Apothcary's world is in general. But guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Let me know what you think about the video, and let me know if you're going to watch Apothcary's Diaries. And if you'd like me to cover it episode by episode, or maybe just jump through a couple episodes and give you more information about it, let me know. Or if not, hopefully you enjoyed this video. But guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and I'm out. Peace.